The ice cracked louder than thunder. For months, the drilling crew had worked in the far northern reaches of the Arctic Circle, contracted by an international energy conglomerate to search for untapped reserves. Most days passed without excitement, just endless scans, long hours, and frozen equipment. Then came the day the drill hit something it shouldn't have done at first. It sounded like rock, but the sensor data told another story. The surface they'd struck was smooth, seamless, metallic. Dr. Olivia Reyes, lead geophysicist on the team, stared at the scan results in disbelief. A circular object, almost perfectly symmetrical, lay embedded more than a mile below the ice sheet. No natural formation looked like that. Could it be a military installation? One technician asked. In the middle of a tectonic dead zone? Olivia replied, "No, this is different." Word spread quickly. Within 48 hours, satellites had been repositioned. Within 72, a multinational scientific task force had set up camp, along with armed security teams from at least for different countries. And then they began digging. The structure was enormous, at least 2 kilometers wide, maybe more. No entry points were visible from the initial excavation. Its exterior was a dark alloy, darker than obsidian, yet shimmered faintly under floodlights like it was absorbing energy from its surroundings. They called it the core. Months turned into years. The ice was cleared away completely, massive. Construction domes were erected overhead to maintain a stable working environment. Every major nation had a presence there, each eager to stake their claim in whatever the core turned out to be. Inside, exploration proved equally strange. The first expedition team found no resistance, no defenses, only a yawning chamber filled with sloping walls and dormant machinery. The air was breathable. The walls were cool to the touch, yet warm in places where no energy source could be found. Even stranger, some of the equipment reacted to human presence. Lights flared softly as team members walked past. Symbols appeared along walls like echoes. A forgotten language. One technician placed a hand on a console and felt a vibration move up his arm, not painful, but deep, like the core was acknowledging him. That was the first time the team considered the possibility. This wasn't just a ship, it was alive. Not in the way a creature lives and breathes, but in the way a forest knows when a storm is coming. It felt ancient, older than anything humanity had ever touched, but still aware, still present, still waiting. Decades passed. The core could not be moved, so the world moved to it. A city of science grew around the Arctic site. Technologies pulled from the ship, materials, energy readings. Strange frequency emissions pushed human civilization forward faster than anyone had expected. Medical imaging advanced 100 years overnight. Power grids across Europe were stabilized using techniques inspired by the core's internal architecture. Microprocessors grew 10 times more efficient after mimicking a data lattice found inside one of the ship's unmapped wings. The core never spoke, never moved, but somehow it taught. Dr. Reyes lived to see her discoveries change the world. Though even she admitted she only scratched the surface. It's not just a machine. She once told a group of students, "It's a seed. It was planted here, and whatever it's growing might be us." Yet, through all the wonder and discovery, one fact remained. No one knew who built it, and no one had come to claim it. Not yet, but far beyond the solar system, beyond stars humans had yet to name, something ancient stirred. Sensors long dormant flickered to life. Data streams flowed. A presence once distant and slumbering felt the core pulse again. For the first time in 30,000 years, it listened, and it wanted its ship back. 10 years after the core was discovered, it became more than a scientific curiosity. It became the beating heart of a new technological era. What had once been buried under the Arctic ice was now surrounded by a vast, domed research complex known as Horizon Station, a self-sustaining city of scientists, engineers, diplomats, and security personnel. It had its own laws, its own neutral governance, and most importantly, its own secrets. Inside the core, exploration had gone deeper. Vast corridors of alien metal and light stretched for miles. The ship's interior shifted gradually as if it responded to intent more than action. Maps made one day became obsolete the next. The core wasn't designed to be understood in the way humans understood machines. It wasn't a spacecraft, it was a mind. The central chamber, what researchers called the heart, was a vast, spherical room lined with smooth black panels that pulsed faintly whenever people entered. No controls, no lights, no seats or instruments. Just the hum, always the hum. Then came the event that changed everything. During a routine survey, an intern named Gian Kwok placed both hands on one of the walls. He wasn't trying to activate anything, he simply leaned forward to steady himself. The wall lit up like a sunrise. Symbols cascaded down from the ceiling. Lines of energy laced the floor beneath him, and something small, crystalline, detached itself from the wall and embedded gently in the center of his palm. He didn't scream. He didn't panic. He simply stared at the glowing fragment in his hand. It didn't hurt. It felt right like it belonged there. Medical scans later revealed the shard had integrated with his nervous system, bonding at a cellular level. Attempts to remove it failed. The more they tried to isolate its material, the less sense it made. It was metal, but not crystal, but flexible. It contained energy signatures far beyond current Earth science. Gian wasn't injured. He was enhanced. He began learning faster. His reflexes improved. He could interface with computers by thought alone. More disturbingly, he claimed to hear the core, not in words, but in emotions, in directions, in purpose. He was the first of many. Over the next 5 years, carefully monitored experiments led to hundreds of successful integrations. Scientists, engineers, medics, anyone who bonded with a shard experienced the same connection. And though no two shards were identical, all shared one constant. They only activated when the core allowed it. You couldn't take from it. You had to be chosen. Global policies shifted rapidly. Core technology, nicknamed Seed-Tech, became the foundation of a new scientific age. Nations began licensing it through Horizon Station under strict agreements. Energy reactors became clean and limitless. Medical diagnostics reached nanoscopic levels. Neural looplinks made traditional communication systems nearly obsolete. Still, despite the benefits, there were growing concerns. Was the core guiding this progress or controlling it? In private, Horizon Station's director, Dr. Olivia Reyes, now in her 60s, watched the tide of advancement with cautious admiration. "We're building with bricks we don't understand," she once said in a closed UN briefing. "And we're trusting that the house won't fall." Because no one could forget the one hard truth at the center of it all. The core had never asked to be found. It had never introduced itself, never revealed its creators, never shown aggression or affection. It simply existed, vast and unknowable, like an ancient mountain that happened to whisper ideas into the minds of those who climbed it. Until one night, when something changed. Without warning, every shard on Earth pulsed simultaneously. For 10 seconds, people across the globe connected to the core felt a sharp, clear sensation. It was waking up. And beyond the stars, on the dark edge of known space, ancient sensors blinked online. Coordinates shifted. A signal began to form. The Cavanth had heard the whisper, and they were coming. The message came in at 3:11 GMT, riding on an unusual particle burst that piggybacked through the heliosphere. It hit every major orbital satellite array at once. At first, technicians believed it was a solar flare anomaly. Then the signal repeated, not in any language Earth had ever heard, but in pure, deliberate mathematics, prime sequences, geometric constants, orbital vectors, and one unmistakable pattern: the coordinates for Earth's position, centered precisely on the core's location. In the Arctic. The last line of the message translated cleanly across every deciphering model: "Return the vessel. It is not yours." Horizon Station went into immediate lockdown. All research on the core was paused. Secure channels buzzed with chatter from military intelligence, space agencies, and world leaders. The signal wasn't an accident. It was a broadcast. Something had found them. Within hours, deep space observatories confirmed it. A fleet was moving. Dozens of ships, larger than anything humanity had ever built, approaching from beyond the edge of the solar system on a trajectory that left no room for doubt. A name soon surfaced from the core's own historical records, recently decrypted by advanced Seed-Tech interfaces. The KVENTH. Not gods, not monsters. A species of logic and precision, according to fragmented logs. They were one of several ancient civilizations, responsible for building the core and seeding it across various planets as a terraforming and civilization guiding engine. But the Cavanth had disappeared millennia ago. No record mentioned why. Now, they were returning, and they wanted their property back. The United Nations Security Assembly convened an emergency meeting. Horizon Station streamed the latest data to representatives worldwide. Scientists presented the decoded Cavanth name, ship telemetry, and estimates of their arrival. "We are not facing an invasion," said Dr. Olivia Reyes. standing before world leaders through a live neural broadcast. We are facing acclaim. Some urged diplomacy. Others feared war. A few demanded the core be shut down, sealed, buried again beneath the ice. But such a move was impossible. The core was now integrated into every major system on the planet: power, transport, medicine, communication. Removing it would be like pulling a heart from a living body. Besides, the core had already made its choice. It stayed quiet, but its influence grew. When the signal arrived, seed tech implants worldwide pulsed gently, as if in silent defiance. No one could prove it was intentional, but no one doubted it, either. In the weeks that followed, humanity prepared. Orbital defenses were brought online. Moon bases, long considered experimental, were reinforced and armed. Spacefaring nations sent fleets into near-Earth orbit crewed by pilots who had trained for this moment since the day the core was found. The core offered no instructions, but it continued to give. New blueprints appeared, daily prototypes for advanced propulsion systems, modular weapons, self-healing armor. It wasn't a flood of technology, but a controlled release, as if it understood what was coming. It wanted humanity ready, but not reliant. Then, the Cavern fleet reached the edge of the solar system. Their ships were elegant in their symmetry, disc-like, vessels with glowing undersides and faint gravitational distortions trailing behind them. No open hails, no broadcasted language, just the same repeating signal, pulsing like a heartbeat through the void. Return the vessel. It is not yours. This time, Earth responded. The Secretary General of the United Nations addressed the fleet through a directed quantum broadcast. This ship, he said, has been part of our world for decades. It has changed us, lifted us, protected us. We didn't take it. It chose to remain. There was no reply, but aboard Horizon Station, in the heart of the core, the light shifted color for the first time, from blue to gold, warm, calm. The Caverns weren't here to talk. They were here to reclaim. The Cavern fleet crossed Neptune's orbit without slowing. Earth watched in collective silence. Probes sent to intercept were simply erased, vanished in flashes of white light. Before reaching the kilometer of the alien vessels, no explosions, no debris, just gone. The leading ship, larger than the rest, took position ahead of the formation. Like the tip of a spear, it did not fire. It did not communicate. It only waited, as if daring Earth to respond first. And Earth did, from orbit. The Aegis array, a ring of satellites built in secret under core-guided engineering, shifted into battle readiness. The platforms weren't meant for aggression. They were meant for deterrence. Defensive beams, anti-gravity pulses, gravity dampeners. But no one had ever tested them in live combat. Humanity's first real starfighter launched from the lunar platform Kinetica. Call sign, Echo 1. Pilot, Commander Talia Voss. A decorated veteran of Earth's orbital cores and the first to survive full sea-tech interface. Training. Her ship didn't use fuel in the traditional sense. It moved on silent pulses, bending space-time around its frame, a gift from the core. She had no crew. She didn't need one. She was the ship. Tactical uplink stable, she said into the neural line as she glided through orbit. I've got visual. No signs of aggression yet. Do not engage unless fired upon, came the reply from command. But the Caverns weren't waiting for permission. Without warning, a beam of white light lanced across the dark between ships. It struck an Earth monitoring satellite, turning it into a ripple of plasma. Echo 1 dove instinctively. They fired, Talia said, voice steady. Permission to return, granted. Engage. She didn't just pilot. She felt the ship. The controls weren't buttons or sticks, they were thoughts, memories, instincts. She moved like no human ever had in space, dodging to more light lances, and closing the distance in seconds. Her return fire wasn't light. It was gravitational compression, a beam that bent space ahead of her, and collapsed it in a controlled burst. The leading cabin ship's shields flared, distorted and failed. Talia's shot tore through its left wing. For a moment, she saw the vessel tremble, wobble, and then vanish in a quiet burst of folded light. No debris, no bodies. The silence that followed was short-lived. The Caverns responded. Dozens of ships broke formation and descended toward Earth's orbit. Ground-based defense systems launched countermeasures, magnetic torpedoes, particle pulses, and experimental shields powered directly by the core's guidance. The sky above Earth lit up in a battle unlike anything humanity had imagined. Talia wasn't alone. 10 more seed-tech-enabled pilots joined her. forming the first combat wing humanity had ever fielded in space. They weren't faster than the Cavanth. They weren't stronger, but they were unpredictable. Where the Cavanth moved. In perfect formation, Earth's fighters moved like wildfire, individual, erratic, creative. They looped through fields of fire, used wreckage as cover, and relied on instincts no algorithm could predict. They gave as good as they got. By the time the Cavanth withdrew from Earth's orbit, 6 human ships were destroyed. But for Cavanth, vessels had been downed. One had been captured, its propulsion core still humming as it crashed into the Pacific and was quickly retrieved. It wasn't a full victory, but it wasn't a defeat either. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Cavanth had been pushed back by a species they considered unworthy of acknowledgement. Earth mourned its dead, but it also celebrated, because now there was proof they could fight, they could win. And as the Cavanth retreated to the far edge of the system to regroup, the core pulsed deep beneath the Arctic. Not in alarm, but in pride. The wreckage of the Cavanth vessel was barely intact when it was recovered from the Pacific. Half of it had vaporized on impact, but what remained was priceless, materials unlike any on Earth. Drive systems that twisted local gravity like fabric, and within the command chamber, a single black prism no larger than a coin. It pulsed with the same gold light as the core. Within 48 hours, the artifact was transported to Horizon Station under strict quarantine. Every sensor scan, every radiation sweep, every nanoscopic analysis said the same thing. This wasn't just Cavanth technology. It was core technology, and it was older than anything aboard the Cavanth ship. Dr. Olivia Reyes stood before the newly unearthed archive chamber, deep inside the core itself. It had opened 2 days after the battle. No alarms, no countdown, just a quiet, deliberate shift, walls folding apart, revealing a smooth room etched with pulsating gold symbols. C-Tech interpreters lit up instantly, every phrase decoded with ease, as if the core had simply chosen now to let them read it. What they found inside shattered everything they thought they knew. The core wasn't a warship. It wasn't even built for defense. It was a seeding vessel, designed to traverse galaxies, find young planets with the right conditions, and assist in the development of intelligent life. The core didn't crash on Earth. It landed. Its arrival, 30,000 years ago, wasn't an accident. It had come with purpose. It had cultivated, adapted, waited. And humanity, unknowingly, had grown under its silent guidance. We weren't just lucky, Olivia whispered to her team as they stood around the archive. We were chosen, or maybe created. The records suggested the Cavanth had once been allies to the core's builders, a coalition of ancient civilizations known as the Shapers of Order. But somewhere along the line, the Cavanth diverged. They wanted control, not cultivation, not evolution. The Shapers went silent. The Cavanth tried to claim the remaining vessels for themselves. The core went dark until Earth woke it up. This wasn't a vault, said Jian Kwok, now a senior C-Tech interpreter and one of the first ever bonded to the core. It was a test. The revelation ignited debate across the world. Was humanity the natural product of Earth, or the guided outcome of something far older? Religious leaders offered prayers. Scientists published papers. Politicians argued over the definition of sovereignty. But in the background, the core remained steady, unshaken. It never claimed ownership. It never imposed its will. It had simply watched and waited. In the quiet of Horizon Station, a question spread between whispering engineers and sleepless scholars. If the core could create life, what else could it do? Meanwhile, at the edge of the solar system, the Cavanth reassembled. This time, they weren't underestimating humanity. Dozens of new vessels gathered into tight formations, their hulls darker than before. Some had begun absorbing radiation directly from the sun. Others shimmered like liquid glass. They were adapting fast. They'd seen what the core could do in the hands of an emerging species, and they would not allow it to happen again. Earth's planetary defense systems upgraded overnight, guided silently by new schematics provided by the core. Advanced orbital arrays blinked into formation, powered by solar folds and quantum uplinks. Fusion reactors stabilized on Mars. Moon bases received new shielding against orbital bombardment. The core didn't speak, but it prepared. And now, it wasn't alone. Across the planet, those bonded to C-Tech began experiencing dreams, memories that didn't belong to them. Vast cities made of crystal and wind. Beings of light forming alliances across galaxies. And one final image, a dying star. A last ship launched. A mission whispered through time. Humanity had not just found the core. They were the continuation of it, and the Cavanth were coming back to end the story before it could truly begin. The Cavanth dreadnought entered the solar system exactly 19 days after Earth decoded the archive. It didn't come alone. Surrounding it were over 50 warships, smaller in size, but deadly in formation, triangular constructs of black metal hulls, laced with soft white glow, moving like blades in orbit. Behind them loomed the dreadnought itself, a massive, rotating obelisk nearly the size of Earth's moon, its gravitational field bending nearby asteroids into orbit like a second skin. They made no effort to hide. They wanted to be seen, and they weren't asking any more. At Horizon Station, every screen flickered. The core's inner systems, previously passive, activated in sequence. New schematics appeared on digital walls. Rooms transformed, floors shifted, and once dormant consoles came online with a quiet elegance. Earth responded quickly. Dozens of countries abandoned their borders and pooled their fleets. Moon-based cannons aligned with Mars orbital platforms. Drone clouds formed tight defensive spheres around Earth's stratosphere. Civilian spaceflight halted. Deep bunkers lit up across continents. For the first time, the core's integrated Earth defense grid was fully armed. Humanity braced itself, but the Cavanth struck first. A wave of light, not destructive, but paralyzing, rippled across near-Earth orbit. Several defense drones dropped from the sky. Mooncoms scrambled. Solar collectors overloaded. The Cavanth didn't need brute force. They were dissecting Earth's response systems before the first real shot was fired. That's when the core made its move. In the Arctic, the heart chamber shifted. Its walls folded into spirals, revealing a central pillar of pure light. Dr. Olivia Ray stood before it, her hands trembling. C-Tech users around the globe reported the same signal pulsing through their minds. Link established. And then, Earth's true weapon awakened, not from a hangar, but from within. The core sent itself outward, not as a ship, but as a signal. Every system it had touched, every network it had guided, every fusion core, every defense laser, every enhanced neural implanted linked. In seconds, the scattered pieces of Earth's defenses became a singular organism. The core had merged Earth into itself. Commander Talia Voss, orbiting in her advanced seacraft, felt the change instantly. Her ship no longer responded to thought, it responded to intention. She didn't steer. She simply willed her movements. Her HUD became a sphere of awareness, positions, vectors, shield statuses of every ship in orbit. It was like seeing with 1,000 eyes and moving with 1,000 hands. So she acted. The human fleet dove straight into the enemy. It wasn't a fair fight. It was never meant to be. But humanity didn't fight fair. While Cavanth vessels used precision and prediction, humans fought with unpredictability. Their ships surged erratically, looped under gravity wells, fired in chaotic bursts, and vanished into pockets of distorted space. The core amplified it all, feeding targeting data before enemies appeared, auto-repairing hull damage mid-flight, even accelerating time perception in high-risk zones. Talia's seacraft tore through the Cavanth interceptors before they could react. Around her, orbital defense stations focused beams onto the dreadnought's edge, causing ripples in its hull. For the first time, Cavanth formations broke, but they adapted. A second wave hit harder, this time coordinating pulses that disrupted core-linked ships. One seacraft was destroyed. Another barely made it back to Earth's atmosphere. Then, the core revealed its final card. Above the Arctic, the clouds split. A towering pillar of light surged upward into orbit, pure, focused energy from the core's main reactor. It didn't hit the dreadnought directly, it enveloped it. The Cavanth flagships, shields buckled, gravity surged around it, and slowly, impossibly, the dreadnought stopped, halted mid-flight like an insect frozen in amber. A voice rang out, not from speakers, but from within every person linked to the core. This world is protected. Your claim is void. You abandoned the path. Leave or be undone. The Cavanth ships paused. Some withdrew immediately. Others hesitated. Then, one by one, they vanished into folded space. Earth had survived. But everyone knew this wasn't peace. It was a warning. The stars were quiet, but Earth was changing. Weeks after the Cavanth retreated, the skies above Horizon Station remained lit by a faint aurora, golden, silent, ever-moving. It wasn't natural. It wasn't atmospheric. It was the core, not hidden beneath the ice anymore, but awake, pulsing gently into the planet's magnetic field like a heartbeat shared with the Earth itself. It had defended the world. Now, it was reshaping it. The integration began subtly. C-Tech users found their implants, evolving no longer just tools, but living extensions of thought. A pilot could predict engine failures before they happened. A doctor could diagnose without a scan. Farmers saw rainfall patterns 3 seasons ahead. Guided by a whisper of insight from the systems around them, the core wasn't controlling it was enhancing Earth's networks, once fragile webs of competing infrastructure, wove together into a vast planetary system, the grid mind. Cities powered themselves through core-fed atmospheric collectors. Satellites no longer needed remote commands. They responded directly to collective intent. Even the weather, long unruly and chaotic, began to stabilize. "It's like the planet is breathing differently," said Jean Kwok, standing on the deck of Horizon Station's newly extended observatory. "And we're breathing with it." The core had stopped being a relic. It had become home. But not everyone welcomed the change. Some groups feared the loss of independence. Others distrusted the core's silence, its refusal to explain the full extent of its plans. A few even tried to sever themselves from the grid mind entirely, forming isolated enclaves with non-core tech. They failed. Not because of force, but because Earth had changed beneath them. Communications failed. Power dwindled. And slowly, even they began to realize the core was no longer a separate entity. It was part of the planet now. It was everywhere. And it was listening. Yet, at its center, the core remained quiet, watching, waiting. Until one night, the dreams began, all across the world. Tech users, millions by now, shared the same vision. They stood in a vast black space beneath a golden sky, surrounded by pillars of shifting light. A figure emerged, neither human nor alien, its form composed of memory and meaning more than matter. It spoke not in words, but in knowledge. The core had never been a tool. It was a bridge. The shapers who built it long ago had seeded not just technology, but legacy living. Adaptive systems designed to bond with worthy civilizations and help them grow, evolve, and inherit. The Cavern had turned away from that path. They wanted mastery, not harmony, but humanity had chosen differently. Where others had tried to command the core, humans had learned from it. Where others had taken, humans had listened. Not always perfectly, not always peacefully, but enough. The core had chosen. The dream ended with a single phrase that echoed in the minds of all who woke with tears in their eyes. "You are no longer passengers. You are the vessel now." In the days that followed, Earth continued to evolve. Orbital platforms were no longer human-built. They were core-grown, shaped from living alloy that responded to thought. Mars and Luna became more than colonies. They became extensions, nodes of a growing planetary consciousness. The core had not taken over. It had become symbiotic. Earth didn't belong to it. It was it. Talia Voss stood alone in her seacraft, drifting quietly above the curve of Earth's glowing blue horizon. Her ship, no longer mechanical, moved as though it breathed. Her thoughts were the engine, her memories the guidance system. She watched the cavern's retreat trails fade like dying starlight. "They'll be back," she said. Jian's voice responded, over the neural thread. "Let them come," because Earth was ready, not just with weapons, but with understanding. Not just to survive, but to become. The cavern never returned. At least, not in force. Months passed, then years. The solar system grew quiet again, but humanity did not slow. The core's pulse had become the planet's pulse. It was no longer just a machine buried beneath the ice. It was a presence of shared mind, a guiding light threading through every living thing in every piece of technology. It was alive. But this life was not something humanity owned. It was a partnership. In this new world, every tech user was more than human. They were nodes in a vast network of thought and purpose. The line between man and machine blurred until it disappeared. Pilots like Talia no longer sat in cockpits. They were the vessels, moving through space with a single unified will. No longer would Earth be a passive planet waiting for invasion or salvation. Earth was the ship. Talia's seacraft slipped through the void, a sleek tendril of light extending from Earth's embrace. She navigated with precision born of centuries-old wisdom and newborn intuition. The Cavern fleet, when it came, would find not a planet to conquer, but a force to reckon with, one that moved as a living entity across space and time. From Horizon Station, Dr. Olivia Reyes watched the stars shimmer with renewed hope. Humanity had faced an ancient claim, stared into the eyes of gods, and returned stronger. But this was only the beginning. We inherited their legacy, she said quietly. But we forged our own. Jian Kwok nodded beside her, his C-Tech implant glowing softly beneath the skin. We're not just survivors. were creators now, across Earth. The grid mine hummed with life. Cities shifted their layouts based on the needs of their inhabitants. Fields of crops adjusted to new climates before droughts could strike. Communication became instantaneous not just between people, but between mind and matter. The Cavinth, once the makers of order, had tried to dominate, but humanity had embraced something else, collaboration, and it was unstoppable. In the depths of space, a faint ripple passed through the stars, a message, not from the Cavinth, not from any known species, a single phrase carried on waves of quantum. Light, we see you, we join you. The core pulsed once, then twice. Earth smiled beneath the stars. The vessel was no longer a relic of the past. It was the beginning of a new future. Because for the first time, humanity didn't just own a ship. They were the ship, the end.